All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. This is definitely something different for us, but I think that the information is really going to be valuable and that everybody needs to pass this along to family, friends, anybody who you think would benefit from this information. So it's been over a year since the pandemic changed the world as we know it. During that time, we know many people suffered financial hardships, but with the help of government programs, many were able to make it through. Now that the world is getting back to our new normal, many people's financial obligations are returning as well. Today, Better Business Bureau of Upstate New York is pleased to welcome our partners from Consumer Credit Counseling Services, Andrea Colline in Rochester and David Atkison in Buffalo, to talk to everyone about how they can budget for their post-pandemic obligations and what resources are available. And today, Lauren Kirchmyer from Better Business Bureau is here as well. She'll discuss how scammers are trying to cash in, what everybody can look for, and how you can protect your identity. We'll also discuss some BBB resources that you can use. So I just want to thank everybody today for joining us. This is something we've been excited to bring to everybody for a couple of weeks now. So I'm just going to jump right in. This is going to be more of a roundtable. Nobody's going to be saying next slide. So we'll get started. So because of the pandemic, payments on the following bills were paused, put into forbearance, or lenders were giving leniency to utilities, rent and mortgage, student loans, student loan interest in some cases, credit cards, and car payments. Now that the world's getting back to normal, many of these bills are coming due again. So how can people prepare now or what steps should they take for when these bills are due again? So that question is for Andrea and David.
You want to start, David, or you want me to go ahead?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think it's really important to just have a plan and know what expenses to pay and have a priority so that we just know that our major expenses are met. There has been some leniency, and I don't know that there's going to be more extensions offered. So we need to plan like there isn't and really take a look at where we're spending our money, being mindful about spending. A lot of people over the past year or well over a year have been stressed or spending based on emotion. One of the biggest emotions that we've been feeling is stress and anxiety. And we might be spending more, we might be ordering more and things of that nature. So just being aware of our plan, communicating with other members of our household, and just making sure that things are where they need to be. And if it's a struggle for you, to reach out for assistance or guidance and educate yourself to really prepare yourself for those expenses.
So I'd also like to say is looking at prioritizing what needs to be paid first. Again, of course, looking at, you talk about housing and your car payments, contacting those lenders, finding out what's the next step. Okay, you've had these forbearances, you haven't been making payments. What's next up? Are they going to offer you a repayment program? Are they going to modify the loan and put all the payments towards the back of the loan? So really looking at what steps are next in the process. When it comes to mortgages, that can be a lot more complicated of a process. So it might be worthwhile to look at starting that now. You can contact your lender yourself, or you can come to Consumer Credit, of Buffalo and Rochester. We can help you through that process. So if it's going to be a loan modification process, there are so many documents that are required for that. We'll actually help you step by step through that process of applying for assistance. And even sometimes if you're applying for a repayment program, to pay back those payments that you missed, you still may be required to submit documents to the bank. One of the nice things I have is in my previous position, I worked for a bank in their mortgage delinquency department. So I know some of the issues that actually do happen to people when they do apply for assistance. One of the main issues is the banks don't receive all the documents that they need. And some banks, what they'll do is, if they don't have a full packet, they'll just toss it and say, your packet was incomplete. You need to resubmit a new packet. One of the reasons why they do this is everything is guided by the government and what assistance programs they can offer, specifically because most of us now have a mortgage that's backed by the government, whether it be FHA, Freddie, or Fannie Mac. Well, I can't talk today. Fannie or Freddie Mac. So these types of loans have a lot of strict requirements, and documents might have to be current. So you submit your documents, but they're not all there. Well, those documents might only be valid for 30 days. That's one of the reasons why banks sometimes toss all your documents, say you need to submit a new package. So just be prepared for that, because if we all rush all at once the moratorium ends for mortgages, I think that the banks are going to get a little bit behind in processing them. So maybe getting ahead of the curve and contacting your bank or contacting an agency, it can be any HUD-approved housing counseling agency, to get the help that's needed. With a HUD-approved housing counseling agency, all that assistance is going to be free. There's not going to be a charge for when it comes to helping you to apply for assistance with getting caught up with mortgages if you've been able to skip payments with the mortgage.
I think the biggest takeaway there is get started now, because you want to make sure that you're able to get appointments. Some people might still be virtual. So you definitely, especially when it comes to the mortgage, the house is the biggest investment a lot of people make. You want to make sure that you're doing that now. So what about credit cards and car loans? I know we did talk about this briefly the other day when we were talking about the webinar, but I think that's something that people might not think that they can have any kind of negotiation or be able to work with lenders. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit, before we go into the next segment? Because I know we did touch on the mortgage stuff, which is really important, but these are other things I think people just don't think about, that they can, maybe talk to the lender or the card holder and say, hey, I'm having a hard time.
Sure. I mean, anyone can call their bank or their credit union that they're working with, or whoever's holding their car loan or their credit cards, to see if there are any options or hardship options to be able to repay your debt. One of the biggest things that I've seen over in my career is that sometimes people might procrastinate a little bit, especially now. I think it's easier to procrastinate because we do have more options that are out there, and there have been some forgiveness in some areas. But it's really to just open the statements, look at the bills, educate yourself on what kind of interest you're receiving. Even if you're receiving late fees and over limit fees, it might be painful to recognize that, but not to shy away from it. And again, reach out for assistance. And then we would say, just kind of put them in order, from the largest to the biggest. Understand, what am I really spending my money on when it comes to credit cards, and know that there is help out there. There's debt management programs to help consolidate the debts that can significantly reduce your interest. It can stop fees. That's something that our credit counseling agencies offer to help people really make those payments. You can call and see if there's any kind of a hardship program, if the creditors would be willing to reduce the interest or payments for a period of time, or for the remainder until you pay that debt off. But I would say, get organized, look at those bills, look at the statements. If it's a secured loan, like a car loan, understand your options. I mean, right now, I know that many lending institutions are offering some help or some support, but not, it really depends on the situation. So it's really important for you to understand, like, how far delinquent am I? What do I need to do to get caught up? And what can I do to be proactive? Because the worst feeling is not having that peace of mind and feeling concerned, when it comes to money. Money is very stressful, but it doesn't have to be. If we really have a plan, know our resources, and just, I guess the key would be to try to get organized, declutter our brain, and really have a plan. Because those months, even though there may be some time still, there might be some assistance, they're going to fly by. I mean, look how quickly I don't know if I should say that, but the past year, I mean, it took a long time, but it really went by quickly. So we want to really stay ahead. And a lot of people, where their student loans too, are on the forbearance, which is the end of September, that will end, are trying to use that opportunity to take the federal ones, I will say, opportunity to take that payment and maybe apply it toward other debt or whatever it needs to be to stay ahead. But we do need to prepare for that as well, because those will be due again come October.
Anything to add, David?
So yeah, I would just really contact the companies as soon as possible, because there are a lot of the COVID programs that are ending. Specifically, when you call your credit card company, I would mention that you have a COVID-related issue. So it could have been you had job loss, increase of expenses that you had because of COVID. Sometimes using that keyword of COVID program will get you to what either department that you need or a specific person you need to talk to, because it could be the person that you that answer the telephone doesn't have enough information on that specific program. Sometimes even when you call in, they'll tell you to press this if you've had a COVID-related issue with your account. So that the programs are still out there. I know probably about 20 or 30% of those programs have been cut by the credit card companies. So they are starting to end. So I really say don't delay in contacting the credit card companies now, because come September, I'm not sure how many companies will be left that will still be offering some type of COVID program.
Great advice. Yeah, I think the big, one of the biggest takeaways is today is going to be get everything together early.
Yes.
So with anything, we talked about a lot of different areas. We know scams are going to pop up with a lot of these buzzwords, student loan utility. Lauren, can you talk about these scams that are being reported to BBB, and also what should people do if they come in contact with one of these scams?
Sure. Our top 5 riskiest scams that were reported in 2020. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to bbb.org/risk report. But the top 5 riskiest scams were online purchase, which a lot of people were at home. They were buying more things online, so that would make a lot of sense. Employment, fake check and money order, advanced fee loans, and home improvement. And home improvement we saw go up too, because so many people were home looking at the things that they needed to get done on their home, or have been wanting to get done on their home, and they finally had maybe a little time to do so. Over the past several weeks, we also saw a rise in utility scams that took over the #1 spot from online purchase in April. So that was a huge uptick there in our area. And then a few other things that we've been noticing pop up, like Melanie said, are student loan scams and package delivery text and email scams. I also want to note it's National Moving Month. So normally around this time of year, we do see some moving scams pop up because people were dealing with individuals who weren't reputable movers, and maybe their items were stolen, or they were just scammed out of their money. And we see a lot of entertainment related scams on the horizon because of all the different events that are popping up, that maybe you had a little entertainment money set aside in the past in your budget, and now that things are opening up, you're looking forward to going to baseball games, you're looking forward to going to concerts, whatever it might be. And now we're seeing ticket scams pop up again because of this. If you do spot a scam, we encourage you to use our scam tracker tool. Do you want me to do a walkthrough of that real quick, Melanie, or do you want me to just talk about it?
We'll save that for the end, because I think
Okay.
that's going to need a lot more time.
But with our scam tracker tool, you can access it at bbb.org/scam tracker. And it's an interactive map that pops up on your screen. You can zoom in and out on there, or you can search by a keyword, by a specific date range, by zip code, even by country, because BBB is international. We're all of North America. So you can search based on that as well. And then you can see what reports have been reported based on that search that you're doing. In each report, then you can click on, you can view the details about it, just to enlighten yourself a little bit more about how that person was targeted. For example, maybe how, if it was a specific time that they were targeted, if there was a specific method, such as a text or something that was sent to them in the mail, or even door to door. I know I just had a door to door situation happen to me recently. So those are popping up now a little bit more with the nice weather and with the mask mandate changing. So go to bbb.org/scam tracker to help you see for yourself which scams are happening in your area and how to prevent yourself from falling for them. Or, as always, give us a call, and we have people on staff who'd be willing to help you.
And we'll have all of our contact information at the end of the presentation today. It's interesting, Lauren talked about employment scams being the #2 riskiest scam. For years, unemployment scams were the riskiest. It's your job, it's your livelihood. A lot of people wanted a gig, or they wanted to work at home. During the pandemic, a lot of people had to work at home. They didn't have a choice. And we know unemployment has been in the news a lot because people are unknowingly having claims filed in their names. So Lauren, I know we were talking about this yesterday. I think we should all, maybe chime in on this one. Lauren, how is this happening? How are people who are very careful with their identity all of a sudden getting a call from New York State saying, hey, you filed for benefits?
Unfortunately, as I say quite often, scammers are using their brain for bad things instead of being able to use that intelligent mind for good. So they were taking advantage of the situation, knowing that so many people would be filing for unemployment, and maybe a lot more reports were going into the unemployment office than they had employees to really look over and make sure everything was accurate. So scammers were targeting people even through just phishing tactics, sending you a text message, sending you an email where you would click on a link or maybe input some information in a survey, downloading an app that you think might be fun or help you with your budgeting, but you didn't look into what that app really was or who the provider was or what they were doing with your information. So even if it was just a quick little message, a quick conversation on the phone with someone that you thought was trusted, that might be that little piece of information that they needed in order to file a claim on your behalf, but it's really obviously not for you. They're sending the checks to themselves. And a lot of times when this happens to an individual, you don't find out until it's almost too late and they already have that information. They're already starting to collect some money under your name. So if you do see that something has happened, that you all of a sudden get a call from the unemployment office, that usually means that your identity has been stolen. So you want to really take that into context and go through different identity theft processes, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But you want to make sure that if someone reaches out to you, that you reach out to your credit card company, you freeze your account, and then maybe even call the police if you do see that there's any fraudulent charges that were made in your name.
Yeah, it's scary. I think there was over 500,000 fraudulent complaints flagged by New York State during the pandemic. We had a woman in Albany reach out to us. She not only had a claim in her name in New York State, but somebody filed a claim for her in Illinois
Mhm.
as well. So it's always a good idea. We're going to talk about identity theft protection tips a little bit later in the show. I feel like I want to call it a show because this is really interesting stuff. Another thing that the four of us were talking about yesterday, it's never a bad idea to take some time to review your finances to see where you can save money. So say you've got like all the streaming services and you're not watching one of them right now. These are things that people probably don't even think about. They're automatic deductions. They're coming out of their accounts. So this is for our folks from CCCS. What's the easiest way to do this, to do this review, to review your subscriptions, your online shopping, things like that?
We don't know who's going to. Do you want to go, David?
Go in alphabetical order. So Andrea
Sure,
goes first.
I'll go first this time.
Okay.
Your turn. It's your turn.
So, I mean, one thing you could think about is, okay, so you're having this expense, a monthly expense each month. So do you really need Netflix each month? Do you really need, oh my gosh, I can't think of another streaming service.
Hulu, Amazon, Paramount.
Mhm.
Do you really need all these services each month? Could you do with maybe Hulu for 2 months and then go back to it? And because they're not locking you into, usually they're not locking you in for a year or anything like that, you can cancel a month and come back to it. Your shows are still going to be there. And then you're going to save all this. Think about how much money you'll save then. I think the average subscription price is anywhere from about $9 to maybe $14 or $15 for each service. So if you have
That sounds
three or
about
four,
right.
yeah. So if you have about 3 or 4 services, you decide to only use one service at a time, and then keep kind of rolling to the next service each month, which it does sound a lot of work, but that's a lot of money that you'll save each month. That could be $30 per month, which you can then put towards maybe bills that you haven't been paying, just toward emergency savings if you really have nothing in your emergency savings right now, because we really don't want you to come into a situation where you have like car repairs and then you have to put all this money down on credit card debt. And that's where people really get stuck when they start having issues with budgeting, is they have one expense they weren't prepared for. They start then putting stuff on credit card debt. And then it just keeps going onto a cycle, because then you're not used to having this maybe monthly payment you didn't have before. Now you have all this credit card debt, and it keeps cycling through. Then something else breaks, and then you keep building up, and you have more and more credit card debt where you just don't get through that cycle then. In the industry right now, at least from my experience of being with consumer credit for 10 years, is it really is an industry that kind of either you're going to have a high interest rate, and that's just going to be your interest rate, a very high interest rate, or they're going to get you in with a 0% and then the 0% turns into a high interest rate. And how many people are going to catch when that 0% goes to, 26, 27%? And the problem with that, at least that I've seen from some of our clients, is that 0% only had a payment of $50, and then it goes to 27% interest. Now the monthly payment goes to $150, and people are ill-prepared, are not prepared for that, and then they start to, other areas start to suffer. Maybe they start getting behind with their mortgages or auto loans and everything like that. If you're ever in that situation where you're really starting to see a snowball effect, you really are struggling to get things in order, come see a professional. If it's consumer credit or some other agency that helps with budgeting, it's really important to, if you really can't handle it yourself, get the professional help that you need. Come to us. We're the experts. We can help you to organize your budget, focus on what's really important. And also really with budgeting, the main thing people I don't think about is, even if you have a very limited budget, a very bare bones budget, budgeting's not going to make sense unless you have some goals. So even if it's just one goal, like a goal of starting to put money into savings, if you don't have a goal, the budget's really not going to make sense. So try to build up, either you're saving towards maybe emergency savings, maybe you're just want to do a small, maybe staycation. Maybe you're just going to go, do a drive like 2 or 3 hours out into the country and spend, some time in the country. Put money towards something in your budget, so it'll be easier to stick with if you have these goals that you set for.
Mhm. I agree. Very good. I would say one other thing just to keep a quick eye on, because I've done this as well, is sometimes you sign up for the subscriptions and you totally forget you have them. I don't know if anyone's ever done that, or like the free trial. I think I paid well over 6 months for something I wasn't even utilizing. So really dive into those statements, because it's so easy to put something on the credit card and just, especially now, we can do everything digitally and you just make a payment. You don't even see it. So yeah, that's another.
I'm so guilty of that. And I actually called the company instead of going through like an online portal and said, I don't ever remember I never signed up for this. Like, I don't remember how this happened. And they refunded all my money, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very lazy. I have all my credit cards on auto pay. I just don't even look at them. I very rarely use them. So, and I saw that, I was like, oh my God. So again, even the most savvy of us have those moments where we're like, I've been paying for an app that I have not used ever. And it was $14.95 a month. So for 6 months, Melanie was paying for an app that she wasn't using. When I found it was an interesting statistic, one of our colleagues at the Chicago BBB told me 53% of Spotify users don't pay for the service. They use the free. I'm like, oh my God, why am I paying for Spotify then? Things that you can think about, I mean, if you really don't want commercials on Hulu, you'll pay the extra money. But it's just taking those every single, app or service. And I've said to my husband a million times, I'm like, there's nothing on Disney Plus you're watching now, please cancel it. Just to save that extra $10 a month, because that's money you can put towards other things. Definitely. Do you guys think, this is a question for everybody, do you think it's a good idea to keep like a spreadsheet of all this stuff just so you know what you're spending the money on?
And maybe just sticking to one credit card that you put subscriptions on, so you can just look at that statement, see what your subscriptions are and go, hey, do I really need this? And also, if you just use one credit card, you're going to see how much really is being billed per month. And it might be a little bit scary to look at that if you have it all on one credit card, because I think a lot of us that have subscriptions have it on multiple credit cards, or maybe they use their bank card. So I think it's a little bit harder.
I use PayPal for those, believe it or not. All of my subscriptions, I go through PayPal. And
PayPal. So, but to have them organized in one area sometimes can be a little bit of shock, because people like, oh my God, I have this much in subscriptions. And usually when people just off the top of your head, if you ask them, hey, how much are you getting billed in subscriptions per month? Just off the top of your head. People don't know that amount. And when they're really look at everything, they're like, oh my God, I'm really spending a lot of money. And what could you put that towards? Could you put that towards a vacation? Maybe it's $100 or $200 a month you're spending on subscriptions. That could be a small vacation somewhere. So really think about priorities and is this really where you want your money to go?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Budgeted in, not just budgeting your money, but budgeting your time to review that. And because it can happen so fast. Those little things can add up. And I think I said it once, but I'll say it again. Like if there's more than one person in the household, communication is key. You know, what are you spending your money on? What am I spending my money on? What goals do we have together or as a family, or things like that? Because I know just in my experience, that can be a challenge, you know, when there's more than one person budgeting in a household. So definitely. And if a spreadsheet's a great idea to keep track, but you got to do what's right for you. You know, not everybody likes spreadsheets. They might just want to write it down. It could be intimidating right from the start. So figure out like a way to really see where your money's going. Sometimes we're on, but sometimes you could be really surprised.
Although the intimidating sometimes makes you say, maybe I don't need that, because you don't want to write it on your list. And Lauren came up with the idea of putting a list together with like a spreadsheet, but you handwrite it. And I was like, oh, after a while I stopped because I was like, oh my God, I'm spending way too much money on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's that slap in the face eye opener sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that one was for online purchases to keep track so that you know when you get those text messages, is this legitimate for what I actually ordered, or is this a service that doesn't have anything shipping for me? So keeping track of that too is also really helpful, so you hopefully don't get scammed.
One of the things I definitely broke my habit was my morning coffee after the gym, because that was our social time after we worked out. And when everything shut down, that stopped. And I kind of just got out of that habit. Even going back to the gym in the morning, I stopped the morning coffee because I'm like, okay, so I work out 4 days a week. It's $3 a day. That's $12 a week I could be spending on something else. So, you know, all those little things you just kind of think about, you know, if pre-pandemic coming back, you know, to semi-normal, you know, what were you spending before? I know for a fact, I can't remember. I'm in the office 4 days a week. I can't think of the last time I went out and got lunch. So those are things that I was so used to having lunch at home. I don't need to go to lunch anymore. So those are just a couple of things, especially as people go back to work in their offices, that they have to think about as well.
Also with streaming services, you may be able to share an account with other family people in your family. My mother uses my sister's Hulu account, which I'm not sure if that's legal.
Well,
but
you know, at BBB, we don't really encourage that. So.
Okay. Okay, scratch
if you're
that,
in the
then.
same household. So like my husband and I
same
have the same
household, okay.
Netflix account,
Yeah.
but we're in the same household. Well, think about it. If your mother's computer gets hacked and your sister's payment information's in the Hulu,
Yeah,
that's a whole Tip Tuesday right there.
she'll be calling my mother up, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't necessarily encourage that, but you know, if you do, make sure you know who it is. Make sure they have all of their computer settings really high, or they're not storing the payment information in there. Some places will allow that, but most of them make you store a payment on file. But definitely make sure that all of your cybersecurity is in order before doing anything like that.
Definitely.
Next topic is something we were kind of touching on, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into, is online shopping. For many of us, it seemed to be our downfall when it comes to spending money wisely, especially during the pandemic. Lauren, didn't you have a name for it? Like something?
Boredom shopping.
Boredom shopping.
I did that a lot
during
during the pandemic, and this webinar is making me realize just how much I need to cut back on little purchases that don't need to be done.
Yeah, it's like you're just kind of sitting there, and I one of my very best friends posted a picture of her in this dress last night, and we have this inside joke. This is a funny story, and she's gonna kill me for telling it, but she posted on Instagram last year that she bought like a maxi dress at Tops, of all places. Like Tops has clothes, believe it or not. And I wrote, oh, did you buy that at Tops? She's like, no, I bought it through an Instagram ad. And she's like, oh no, the BBB is going to come after me. I said, as long as you're checking the company, you know, you know that it's a legitimate company, that it has good reviews, that it has like a review on bbb.org. It's okay. You know, there are plenty of legitimate companies that advertise, but that's the problem that we're into, is that they're advertising to us, either whether it's through social media or other avenues. But, you know, in many cases, what we found during the pandemic, what Better Business Bureau found, was that a lot of people were losing money online. And we know that the online shopping has increased. So did the scams. And, the average amount wasn't that bad, but it's still losing money. You're still losing payment information. So Lauren, my question to you, what can people do to protect themselves from scammers and fake websites when they're shopping online?
First and foremost, check that business out on bbb.org. A lot of these online retailers, even if they do turn out to be a fake business, we had so many complaints come in about them that they still have a profile on our website that has an alert right at the top saying, we have an abundance of complaints about this. So basically letting you know this is an F-rated company. Do not trust them with your money. They don't ship you the items, or it's not the item that you anticipated. So first and foremost, look them up on bbb.org. Doing your research is huge too. Talk to your loved ones, your friends, your family members, see where it is that what people that they've used in the past. Get that personal recommendation from them and talk to them about their experience. So even if it's online shopping, say, hey, have you used this vendor before? Is this someone that you've actually received a product from that was what it was supposed to be? About how long did it take for you to get that product? And then talk to them about that experience before you give any information out. The other thing you can do too, look at reviews. Melanie and I give a lot of presentations about online reputation management. And one of the biggest things we try to inform our attendees about is those online reviews and how important they are, not just for the company's reputation, but also so the customer can see something that's based in real time from a real customer. With BBB too, we also vet all of our reviews and complaints that come in to make sure it was actually truly a customer of that business. So if you are doing online shopping, you can look up those reviews, see what's recent, because a company's business structure could change so different from 3 years ago to today. Even pre-pandemic to now, things have changed a lot. So make sure you're looking for those recent reviews and getting that real customer experience from them. And again, do as much research as you can before making that purchase, because in the end, just because something seems like it's a great deal or seems to be just what you need at the right time, it's probably put there on purpose. So make sure that it's legitimate, because in the end, if you spend $10 more on a product compared to that other site, if that business is going to steal your money, steal your identity, not send you what you thought, then you're out money, but you're also out time, you're out that personal information. You're going to have to go through and change passwords and call the bank and your credit card companies and all that. So there's a lot more that goes into it if you don't do your research.
It always breaks my heart when I open up a scam tracker to, vet it and publish it, when it says, I ordered this for my grandchild, or I wanted to surprise my mother with this item, and they didn't get it. So, in addition to checking BBB, run the company name through a search engine and see if there's any other reviews, because we might not have information on them, but yeah, it's I can't use the S word, but it stinks. It stinks
Even
that this happens.
even the images that they're using, if there's an image that's shared and it looks like really polished and put together or whatever, if it seems familiar, do a search on that image and see if that image appears on other sites too, because it could be a stock photo. So you want to make sure that it is a legitimate photo that business took and shared to their page organically, and it's not just something that they took off of a stock image site.
I have to ask Andrea and David, did you guys come across personally or know anybody who came across any kind of online shopping scams during the pandemic? Or, you don't mention names, but any clients who might have talked about it?
I think we had some individuals with the puppy scam.
Oh, yeah.
Through,
Yeah.
yeah, I know, I've heard of that.
And the puppy scam is just, it's heartbreaking because people think they're getting a puppy.
Mhm.
And a lot of times the average loss for the puppy scam, I think, was $900 system wide. So people were losing a lot of money. The money, it wasn't just necessarily the money for the puppy. It was the money that they were asking for in addition to, you need a special crate. We need this, we need that, we need insurance. That's where people were just like getting down that rabbit hole of fake pet ownership, I guess, for lack of a better term, because they were thinking they were getting this dog and they never got anything, which is heartbreaking because, you know, we all love our animals,
Family member, yeah.
even though sometimes they're annoying at 4 a.m. when they sniff your nose and wake you up. We have a cat. David, did you see any examples or talk to anybody who might have had something happen?
That's the only thing that I've heard was the puppy scam. That's really, that's the only thing that I've really kind of heard lately. That's been one of the major problems is the huge amount of money that people are spending with these, fortunately, with that scam. Another thing I'm just noticing is my clients and myself, I've seen a lot of Amazon scam emails and then PayPal. So, and I think part of it is that with a lot of tracking, even legitimate tracking on when you're surfing the web, I'm wondering if there's some bad actors that are actually grabbing that information and knowing what site you go to. So even
A
though
lot of them are phishing,
Yeah.
and you know, I get them in my Yahoo email, and Yahoo had a data breach 5 years ago. So a lot of Yahoo emails are still floating out there. And unfortunately, I need to keep that Yahoo email because it's connected to a couple of things. But that's what they're just literal phishing.
Yeah.
They're sending out the line. And we just did a big story for one of the TV stations in Elmira about this, because there were people calling the station saying, I'm getting these emails from Amazon. They're asking me to confirm my credit card information because somebody made a large purchase on my account. And the reporter reached out and said, is this a thing? I said, no, they do not reach out to you that way. And they'll spoof big names. They'll spoof, you know, Amazon, PayPal, Bank of America. I see. There's one local, M&T. I keep getting spam emails from M&T. Spammers pretending to be M&T. So that's something that people really need to pay attention to in your emails, is make sure that you don't click on any links. Go to the source off of the email. So if you get an email from PayPal, go to paypal.com. Don't click on the link they gave you, because you could be giving up your information, which could lead, going back, Lauren, to a unemployment claim filed in your name. It's not funny, but it is. It's that's how easy it's been for them to get people's information. It's a simple phishing email. It's a simple, you clicked on the wrong link. So people really need to, and you know, as you guys are working with your clients, make sure they're paying attention to those types of things going forward, or else, you know, they could have their information out there. So this, go ahead. Yeah.
So, Melanie, how often do you suggest people change their passwords for all their websites?
I do it like every 3 months.
Yeah, and I guess you have to have different passwords for each individual website as well, because if one website gets hacked, then your password then is known for other websites. And please, please, please do not use password 123 or password. So interesting is I'm part of a gaming community, and I'm an administrator, and we checked and said we can see actually if people use the same passwords, and I think about 15% of the community use password or password 123 as their password. I'm like, oh no, please. And these are people who are gamers, so they should know better. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have with computers. People sometimes use passwords that are easily so you don't use your address, don't use your, even your pet name could be, people can find out your pet name, daughter's
name. You know
name.
how people are giving that up? Facebook.
Yeah.
Lauren and I saw a great graphic the other day. It was favorite animal, don't. And then all of the answers were don't give away your information. It was interesting. The beginning of the pandemic, Lauren, I don't know if you remember, but people were posting, here's to the class of 2020. You don't get a graduation. So here's the year I graduated high school, where I went, and our mascot. And I'm like, those are 3 secondary questions into like a banking site. So we put together an alert on that. But you know, as fun as they are, even the one, you know, I love cars, and I said, oh, what was your first car? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's a security question. You know, those are things, again, this is how they're getting your information, is you not thinking.
And Melanie, what's funny is that So just if you didn't know, well, you didn't know, the audience doesn't know, we did have a practice session about this, and we did talk about this, this Facebook issue. What's funny is that night I checked my Facebook and someone posted one of those questions. Oh, what's the street you grew up on? I'm like, oh God. And I had to laugh so much because I'm like, you know what? With these things that we do on Facebook and social media, we're really giving those answers, and it's, yeah, you're compromising your own security and your own identity. So, and like you said, Melanie, I don't know if we just talked about this, but this is how people are really getting your information, is you're giving people that information. That's how most people are being hacked, are getting these unemployment fraud, is you're actually doing something that causes that typically.
If you think about how smart these people are
Yeah.
to like figure those types of things out. And then I think about like, the passwords that I've changed things to, and I'm like, oh, it'd be so easy to use my pet's name, but good God, everybody knows his name. Well, I think everybody knows his name. I'd like to think everybody knows his name. But those are things that I just think about now. I really double think more than I ever did, especially because everything was online the last couple of months. But Lauren and I were talking, and I think we were all talking yesterday about just ways we can protect our identity, and they're just so easy. And I know you guys are, checking people's credit reports. Has anybody ever found anything that they're like, what?
With the credit reports, yeah, a couple things. It hasn't been too bad. I have had people, we have a lot more people calling in saying that their checking accounts have been compromised, and their debit cards. So if your debit card is compromised, it does not mean that your checking account is compromised. So the routing numbers with your checking account, that's something very important that we have clients call all the time saying my debit card my checking account was compromised. Yeah, so it's just a debit card, it just affects that. So biggest thing is being really careful when where you're using that debit card, because it's so easy now for criminals to put those skimming devices in. Even professionals, it's hard for them to tell unless they touch the device to see if there's actually a skimming device on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important too to keep an eye on your bank statement, just like David was saying, because sometimes they'll test it and they'll have like $1 or $2 or $3 that we don't even probably notice. And then suddenly bigger transactions will start coming out. And you can always it's so easy to put a fraud alert or even a freeze if it's necessary on your credit report, so that if someone's applying for credit in your name, you can verify that it's you. So there's like a longer process, or a freeze on your credit report, meaning that no one can apply for credit in your name, even yourself, until the freeze is lifted. So if someone has been a victim, especially of the unemployment insurance scamming or anything like that, that's like number one, make sure that you have that on there too, so that you can keep track of information on your credit. But the little transactions are a big thing. So I don't know if we've had a lot of individuals that were facing fraudulent activity. Usually the fraudulent activity, and I hate to say this, is even during the pandemic, is someone they know, like a family member or something. We have seen that for sure. But yeah, it's always a factor to be aware of.
All right, we have 15 minutes left, and I think we promised a scam tracker demo. So I'm going to give Lauren the floor now. It's such a rabbit hole. I love Scam Tracker. It's not because I work here, but it's just so interesting to see, especially the trends. And like I said, when I, help manage Scam Tracker, I open up online purchase and I see I tried to buy XYZ for my grandson, and you just want to cry because you're like, oh my God.
So if you go, there's two ways to get to our Scam Tracker. The first is if you go right to bbb.org, and then at the top, you can click on Scam Tracker. You can also just search bbb.org/Scam Tracker, and that will take you right to the site. Is the screen sharing okay, by the way?
Yep, looks great.
Just wanted to make sure before I get too involved that you're seeing what I'm seeing. So this is what pops up on your screen. There's the interactive map that we were talking about. So you can zoom in on it, closer to your area. You can zoom out and view pretty much everything, but that gets a little daunting and a little scary looking. So I'm just going to zoom back in. And we're located in Buffalo, so it's nice because it pings about where your location is too. And then you can also search by keyword, scam type, the country you're in, and the dates reported. So for this, let's do utility scams, because that was one of the ones that we were talking about. And I want to know those utility scams that have been happening since, I don't want 2015.
This has been wonky for me. I tried to do something the other day. So let's see if it works.
So I'll even do February 2020 to now. So you can click search, and it shows a few different areas that have been popped up. And what you can do for this too. So obviously I could have done by our just
Scam
our
type.
region too. Or, oh yeah, sorry, scam type would have been better. Thank you. It's like, I'm surprised that there's
Just utility. It's interesting. We had to add this one a few years ago because it was becoming so pervasive. It was actually one of the top scams.
There we go. I'm like, why isn't there more? So thank you for that one. So
There we
I
go.
can even zoom in then for our area. And then the color tells you like how many have been happening in that area specifically. So the warmer the color, the more it's been happening. So you can zoom in and out, like I said, and then you can go down to the bottom and it shows you all of those results. So this was for when I zoomed in to closer to where we are. And it shows you the different results that have been popping up, where it happened, about how much money was lost. So this one lost a lot of money, unfortunately, due to that scam.
Oh.
Then on the right, you can see view. If you click on view, it tells you more of the details on that particular scam. So it tells you where it happened, what the scam was, and gives you a description. So this one, it says that it was a robocall.
Hydro,
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the postal code, it's actually
Yeah.
postal code, not the zip code. And at the very bottom of that too, you can click on learn more. And if you click on that, it'll tell you, it'll bring you to an article that tells you. So this one's all about utility imposter scams. So that's a great way to just continue learning more on how to prevent yourself from falling for a scam, what to do, so how to spot it, how to protect yourself, and then even more articles to help you continue learning more. So that's just a great, it's free too for you. So it's a great free resource for you to learn more about scams happening in your area and then educating yourself on how to prevent yourself from falling for it yourself. And I can say yourself 18 million more times apparently, because that's my word right now.
Well, it says protect yourself right there on the screen. So
True. But that's
yeah,
Scam
it's
Tracker. Is there anything
it's
else you can think of,
interesting to
Melanie,
see.
for it?
Just do a quick online shopping
Okay.
or online purchase.
There's a lot more that popped up for
That's just for February 1st, 2020 to today.
that. Mm-hmm.
That's how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So it's really fun to play around with. It's also sad to play around with because you're realizing how often people are being scammed, and these are just what's reported. So imagine how many more are happening that aren't reported. But we encourage everyone who's watching, if you spot a scam, whether you lose money or not, whether you lose your personal information or not, it could be that you got the text message and you knew it was a scam and you didn't do anything with it. You ignored it. Well, then report that still to us. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to show is how easy it is to report a scam. So you do that right here by clicking the red button that says report a scam. And we just ask you a little information about the scammer themselves. So if they used a business name, if they have a website, a phone number, email address. If you don't have all that information, you don't need to provide it. It's just the more the merrier, and the better our reports can be then for consumers. Then we ask you a little about the scam. So how did they contact you? What type of scam was it? And then the details to share a little bit more in depth about what happened. In that case, where if it was a text message, an email, if you receive something in the mail and you have an image of it or a screenshot, you can share that with us too, so we can know what it looks like. If you lost any information or money, and then we ask for a little bit about you as well. So this way we can see if the scam is being targeted towards anyone of a certain age group, or if it's being targeted towards the military members or veterans, or towards students. So that about the person scammed, it's just for our own data to see if it's a specifically targeted scam that we should put an alert out about. And it's super easy and simple to report it. So if you have just like another minute of your day that you can help someone be aware of what to look out for, it's very valuable. So we encourage you to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts? We'll start non-alphabetically with the C's, not the B's. So CCCS. Any parting thoughts for folks who are probably freaking out and need that just like little bit of reassurance right now?
I would just keep saying what we've been saying is to stay ahead. We're going to be okay. We're going to pull through this, but to be realistic about what's happening with our money and what bills we have, and to just slowly but surely get back on track and know that there is support, there is help out there. If you're overwhelmed with managing your finances or your debts, that you're just not sure where to begin with your spending plan, it's better to act sooner than later. I know we said this throughout the presentation, but it really is. Once some of these forbearances end and things kind of go back to normal, which I'm not sure what that even means anymore, we want to really have a plan for it. We don't want to get too comfortable where we are. We want to make sure that we're doing smart things with any free money we have and being aware of spending and just really having that plan and knowing that there is support out there for help.
Yeah,
David?
so I agree as well. A lot of the services are free or very low cost. So you're not going to have a huge expense to get the help that you need. And a lot of, like applying for mortgage assistance is a very complicated process. It can be very frustrating. And again, that is a free process to talk to a HUD certified housing counselor to help you through the process of mortgage modification. And so you really will have that assistance and someone kind of holding your hand through the process. It makes life so much easier.
Lauren?
Do your research. That is going to help you with even all of this. If you're looking for someone to help you with your budgeting, do your research, because they're going to be receiving a lot of your information, a lot of your personal information. So you don't want them to have access to your funds after you discussed how much money you have. But do your research with anything. And then on top of that, be honest with yourself. Really take that time and really look at your finances. Take that time and think, okay, I was scammed. I'm embarrassed maybe a little bit, but if I share this information and know that my personal information, like my name and my phone number, are not going to be out there, but I can still at least share the information about the scam and how I was contacted and maybe why I lost money, then share that report with others. Don't be embarrassed, because if you are embarrassed, then you're going to prevent people from being aware of that, and it could then happen to them. So take a deep breath and share that report with us. And like I said, your personal information is only going to be what you share with us. So and we're not going to share that actual personal information on our scam tracker, because then it will obviously have you then get scammed, because people will have access to it. So just know that it's only going to be in our records. It's not going to be shared with anyone else, and it will help other people.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, I've said it a million times. I know Lauren said it a million times. You are your own best advocate when it comes to protecting your identity. So make sure that you are checking your credit reports, that you're staying on top of everything. You're not giving too much information out on social media. You're not clicking on weird links in your email. Just always take that step back and think before you act. I think those are my parting words to everybody today. I don't see any questions in the chat box. I did chat out our information, but we will put that also in the Facebook comments as well, so everybody can see it. Are there any questions on Facebook? I'm not logged in.
I didn't see any. I have it open right now, and I don't see any on the screen.
All right. Well, I'm giving everybody 5 minutes of their day back then. This was awesome. You guys are just such a wealth of knowledge to help people with things that, in some cases, they might not have ever been in this situation before. or, they might not know that you can go and look up scams on Scam Tracker, or that, there is mortgage assistance, or, hey, you know what? I'm spending money on streaming services I don't use.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of great stuff today. So I just want to thank everybody for taking time to do this panel. Yes, Lauren.
I do want to close out too. CCCS is accredited with us,
Yep.
and the Buffalo location received our Torch Award for Ethics in 2020. So they're doing a phenomenal job with what they do and the information that they provide to consumers. So just so that you
think
are
you
aware,
guys
they
have been,
are
yeah.
legitimate.
more than 10 years, I think, for both locations. So thank you for supporting us, being ethical nonprofits that you are. So we do appreciate that. And this is just it's been a really great collaboration, I think, over, God, Andrea, has it been a year now? I know, David, you and I have been talking for about a year. So I feel like it's been about a year that we've all done this stuff together.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
It's awesome.
Do it.
Awesome. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to add?
No, just enjoy this beautiful day.
Yeah, exactly.
For
All right,
sure.
guys. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.